Okay, so get this. We're diving into some seriously cool thelemic stuff today.
Oh, yeah. Lay it on me.
All right, so we've got excerpts from Black Pearl, that College of Thelema journal.
I've heard of it.
Well, just skimming through it, I'm already getting these like super mystical vibes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to be exploring Thelema, obviously, and like all sorts of magical stuff, but get this. There are some wild cosmic coincidences woven into all of this.
It's funny you should say that.
Really?
Yeah, because, right off the bat, this journal points out some pretty insane events that all line up with Thelema's anniversaries.
Okay, now you have to tell me more. What kind of events are we talking about?
All right, so think about this.
Yeah.
A powerful solar flare, directed right at Earth. And guess when it happened?
I don't know. When?
On the anniversary of the first chapter of Liber Legis being dictated.
No way. That can't just be a random thing.
Right.
There's got to be more to it.
And there is.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have the announcement about potential life on Europa.
Europa? Like Jupiter's moon?
That's the one. And guess when that announcement dropped?
Okay, you're going to tell me it lines up with another thelemic anniversary.
Bingo. Anniversary of the second chapter.
This is blowing my mind.
Oh, and it gets better.
Better? Come on, how can it get any better than that?
Remember that solar flare we talked about?
Yeah, the one into Earth on the Liber Legis anniversary.
That's it. So it actually reached Earth over Boleskine, of all places. And guess the date.
Hold on, Boleskine. As in, like, the magical powerhouse, Boleskine?
Yep, that Boleskine. And it reached Earth right over it on the anniversary of the complete Book of the Law being dictated.
You're kidding. It all seems way too connected to be just chance.
It really does make you wonder.
Like, what does it all mean?
Exactly. What are the forces at play here? And remember, Thelema's whole thing is about harnessing natural forces.
Especially for magic, right?
Exactly. So maybe these cosmic events are kind of like, reflections of that, showing how connected the universe is and what aligned intentions can do.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. Okay, so where do we even start unpacking all of this?
Well, I think we got to start with Thelema's foundation. Right.
The basics. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, so their central law, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Hold on, before we go any further.
Yeah.
Doesn't that basically mean, do whatever you want?
That's what a lot of people think.
So is that what it means?
Well, not exactly. The will in that statement isn't just about, doing whatever you feel like.
I see, so there's more to it.
Definitely. It's about this whole idea of aligning with your true will. Figuring out your actual purpose.
Oh, so it's more about, self-discovery then?
Absolutely. Thelema's all about that.
Oh.
Figuring out your own truth through experience, not just blindly following what someone else tells you.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So how does that play out in these sources we're looking at?
Good question. It's kind of woven through everything. But there's this one article by Sorrel Merrill that really stands out.
What's it called?
It's called Take Your Fill of Love Under Will.
Under Will? Interesting. What's it about?
It's all about love, how Liber Legis approaches this crazy emotion.
Love under will. That sounds kind of intense.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this article is that she talks about what she calls pure love.
Pure love. Okay, break that down for me.
All right. So it's love without all the baggage. No possessiveness, no jealousy, none of that need to control the other person.
Wow. So basically it's about being really conscious about how you love.
Right. And taking responsibility for your own emotions.
Not blaming your partner for your feelings.
Exactly. And being super self-aware in relationships.
So it's about taking a more intentional and mature approach to love.
That's a great way to put it. Sarah Merrill even goes as far as to offer a code of honor for purifying how we approach love.
A code of honor for love. I've never heard of that. What kind of stuff is in there?
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Stuff like respecting another person's freedom, honoring how sacred love is. And she's big on the idea that you can't really love someone else until you truly love yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's you need that solid foundation within yourself first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, this whole idea of being intentional and taking responsibility, it goes way beyond just romantic love.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a core principle for, everything in Thelema, even magic.
Speaking of magic, one of the sources you sent was a diary entry from Fra Braxis.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It was titled Sexual Mysteries.
Ooh, that one.
Yeah, and I have to say that title really piqued my curiosity.
I can't blame you for that.
Yeah.
It's one of those pieces that really grabs you. Fra Braxis basically dives headfirst into the idea of sex magic.
Okay, before we go any further, I gotta ask.
Also,
Is sex magic really just about, well, sex?
That's what some folks might think. But it's way more than that. It's about, like, harnessing that intense energy and using it to transform yourself.
Okay, so spill the beans. How does this actually work?
Well, the way Fra Abraxas explains it is sexual fluids become a kind of talisman, like a super malleable one that absorbs magical impressions.
Wait, hold on. You're saying fluids can be magical?
It's not so much that the fluids themselves are magical, but they carry this powerful energy, right? And a magician can, like, shape that energy.
So it's like the magician's intention that does the real work.
Bingo. And that's why aligning your intentions with your true will is so important. Like, if you're coming at it from a selfish place, things could go sideways.
I can see how that could get messy. It's definitely not something to mess around with lightly.
No kidding. And that just underscores how important self-knowledge and self-mastery are in Thelema.
Yeah, it all seems to be connected, doesn't it? Like self-discovery, magic, love. It's all intertwined.
Exactly. And it's not just about all this deep, serious stuff either. Like, there's this fun anecdote in Black Pearl about kids.
Wait, what? Kids in Thelema?
Yeah, so Friday PM writes about their kids, right? And apparently these kids had been watching the adults doing rituals.
So what happened? Did they try it themselves?
Oh, they totally did. They came up with their own little ritual, like with adapted speeches and everything.
No way. That's adorable.
I know, right? It's like they just absorbed these big Thelemic ideas and made them playful.
It kind of shows you don't have to take it all so seriously, right?
Totally. There's room for joy and wonder in this stuff, even for kids.
Okay, so Thelema is about serious rituals and deep mystical experiences, but also about finding magic in everyday life.
Exactly.
I like that. Makes it feel more relatable.
Right. Speaking of ritual and magic, there's another piece that caught my eye by Fry H.
What's that one about?
They go deep into ceremonial magic and this whole pursuit of wisdom, specifically this thing called Liber Israf.
Liber Israf. What's that?
So it's a ritual, right? And it's designed to invoke this deep understanding of magic itself.
Hold on. You're saying there's a ritual to understand magic better.
That's what it sounds like.
That's pretty meta. What's it like?
Well, the way Frey H describes it, you basically invoke Tahuti, the Egyptian god of wisdom.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him. So you're saying this ritual connects you with the god of wisdom so you can better understand magic.
Pretty much. It's all about tapping into that wisdom that's like already inside you, connecting with the divine through a very specific process.
That's pretty intense.
It is. And, it all comes back to that idea of aligning with your true will. Liber Israf seems to be all about that.
Wow. The more we talk about this stuff, the more I'm seeing how it all fits together. It's not just random beliefs. It's a whole system.
Right. It's like a system for exploring consciousness, connecting with the divine, transforming yourself.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff, and we've only just scratched the surface.
That's true. There's so much more to explore, especially when it comes to Crowley's mystical visions.
Oh, yeah, those. You mentioned those earlier.
We're going to dive into those next time. Lots of symbolism, intense encounters.
Mind-bending experiences. I'm so ready for this.
You got it. But let's save that for part 2, yeah.
Good idea. I need a minute to process all of this amazing information.
Sounds like a plan. We'll pick up where we left off in the next part of our deep dive. All right, so last time we left off with Crowley's mystical visions.
Yeah, those. I'm ready to hear about some mind-bending experiences.
Okay, so we're going to look at his experiences in 3 specific ethers.
Ethers. Remind me what those are again.
They're like these spiritual realms, planes of existence.
Right. Okay, so which one are we starting with?
Let's jump into the 27th Azer, ZAA.
ZAA. Got it.
So Crowley meets this lonely moon goddess there, and her image is like overflowing with symbolism, which, is pretty interesting given what the Black Pearl Journal was saying.
Melita Denning.
Yeah, like connecting her death to the recent cosmic events. Maybe the symbolism here has got more to it than we realize.
That's a good point. Didn't you also mention something about a boiling cauldron and a dragon?
Oh, yeah. There's a cauldron, and it's filled with all this alchemical stuff, including a rose with 49 petals.
49 petals. Okay, that's definitely symbolic.
Right, and then this dragon emerges from the cauldron. But the whole encounter is super emotional. Like, Crowley describes the moon goddess crying out for compassion. It's intense.
A dragon? That sounds pretty scary.
It is. Crowley saw himself as, like, a prophet. He thought he was ushering in a new age.
An age that would challenge all the old structures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe the dragon's like a symbol of the chaotic forces that get unleashed during these big shifts. It's not always going to be a smooth ride.
That makes sense. So the dragon's not evil, but more like a representation of all that chaotic energy.
Yeah, exactly. And that ties into Thelema's whole thing about transformation, right?
Yeah.
Embracing change, facing your shadows.
Okay, I'm following you. So what happens after ZAA? Where does Crowley go next?
We move on to the 26th Aether, DES, and this one is really striking.
What happens in DES?
Crowley encounters this imposing black angel.
A black angel?
Yeah. And this angel declares his own righteousness and then starts, like, pronouncing curses on anyone who worships false idols.
Whoa, hold on. Curses? That doesn't sound very angelic.
Well, yeah, it's easy to see the black angel as a negative figure.
Yeah.
Right? But Crowley's symbolism is tricky. It's not always so black and white.
So the black angel isn't necessarily evil.
Right. It's more that he's challenging how we usually understand things. Like the angel represents Akasha, the element of spirit, which is beyond, good and evil.
Oh, I see. It's like that whole duality thing.
Exactly. So the curses aren't about being mean. They're more about challenging people who cling to these rigid beliefs.
Ah, okay. So it's more about encouraging people to think for themselves.
Right. To find their own truth. And then, to make things even more interesting, a golden eagle shows up. And this eagle represents Jehovah.
Jehovah, like the God of the Old Testament.
That's the one. And in this context, it's like a symbol of the demiurge, the creator of the material world, but, one that's associated with limitations and separation.
So it's like the golden eagle represents that old patriarchal order that Crowley's trying to move beyond.
Exactly. And then, get this, the vision ends with Nuit and Hadit appearing.
Nuit and Hadit, the Thelemic deities.
Yep. And they represent this totally different understanding of the cosmos. It's like Crowley's watching a shift happen from this old worldview to something totally new.
Man, that's deep. It really seems like Crowley's visions offer some profound insights, even if there were personal experiences.
They do. And they're packed with symbolism, so it's up to us to, engage with them and draw our own conclusions.
Okay, so we've talked about ZAA, the 27th Ether, and DES, the 26th.
Right.
What about that third one?
Oh, yeah, VTI, the 25th Ether.
What happens there?
Well, it's still about transformation, but things get even more intense. And kind of unsettling, to be honest.
Ooh, unsettling. I like it. Spill the tea. What did Crowley see?
He describes seeing angels, a lion, and this crazy blue wind. And the lion, well, it's wearing a crown with 419 rays.
Okay, that's a lot of rays. What's the significance of 419?
Crowley connects that number to the Hebrew word for beast.
Beast. Like the beast 666, the one associated with Thelema.
That's the one. So in this vision, the lion's like this powerful force. It even consumes both death and victory.
That's a powerful image. So it's not just a regular lion, it's like symbolic of something bigger.
Yeah. It's like the embodiment of Thelema itself, something that disrupts the established order. It's about embracing your true will.
Even if it's not what society expects of you.
Exactly. And then there's that blue wind, right?
Oh, yeah, the one with silver specks. What was that all about?
Well, wind often symbolizes spirit. So this could be the breath of the universe flowing through everything. And the silver specks, those could be stars, representing the connection between us and the cosmos.
It's like Crowley's merging with universal consciousness.
It's pretty amazing, right? But even with these incredible experiences, it's not always easy to integrate them.
Right. He talks about feeling overwhelmed and attacked by these unseen forces.
Exactly. It's like there's this tension,
Yeah.
between his higher self that's connecting with these mystical realms.
And his human self that's trying to wrap its head around everything.
That's it. It's that struggle between the human and the divine, which, is something we all experience in some way.
That's really insightful. Okay, so before we move on, I want to circle back to sex magic for a sec.
Sure. What about it?
Well, you said it can be dangerous. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so remember what Fra Ibraxis was saying about needing caution and proper guidance.
Right. So what can go wrong?
Well, if you're not aligned with your true will, things can get messy. Like if your intentions aren't pure or you're doing it for selfish reasons.
So it's like playing with fire if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. It's not enough to just follow the instructions. You got to have the right mindset.
Right. It all comes back to self-awareness, doesn't it?
It does. And taking responsibility for your actions.
Okay, I'm getting that. One more thing about sex magic. Fra Abraxas called sexual fluids a malleable talisman. What did they mean by that?
Oh, right. So the idea is Sexual fluids have this potent energy that can be directed, like, magically.
So are the fluids themselves magical?
Not really. It's more about the energy they carry and how a magician can work with that.
So it's like they're a tool to focus your intentions and energy.
That's it. But the real magic comes from the magician's willpower.
It's all starting to click now. Thelema is really about owning your will and intentions.
It is. And you know what? We've covered so much already. Cosmic events, visions, sex magic.
My head is spinning, but in a good way.
I know, right? Thelema's a lot to take in.
But I think I'm ready for the final part of this deep dive.
Awesome. Are you ready to see how all of this applies to you, the listener?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay, so Crowley's visions were definitely intense. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all that symbolism.
Yeah, his stuff can be pretty mind-bending.
Yeah.
But, it really pushes you to think differently, to explore your own consciousness.
And that seems to be a big part of Thelema, right?
It totally is. Like, Thelema encourages you to question everything, not just accept things blindly.
So it's more about finding your own truth through experience.
Exactly. It's not about dogma. It's about direct experience.
Which kind of reminds me of what we talked about with sex magic.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, remember Fra, Abraxas was saying how it can be a path to self-knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But you got to approach it carefully.
Right. It's a powerful tool, but not something to mess around with.
It's like Thelema gives you these tools and concepts, but it's up to you to use them responsibly.
That's a great way to put it. Thelema provides a framework, but doesn't tell you exactly how to live your life.
So it's more about empowering you to make your own choices.
Absolutely. It's about taking ownership of your own spiritual journey.
That's pretty cool. It takes the pressure off, Like, you don't have to conform to anyone else's idea of spirituality.
Exactly. And, this emphasis on personal experience doesn't mean you have to go it alone.
Right. There's that whole community aspect too, right?
Totally. There are teachings and practices you can learn from, and lots of people who are exploring this path.
So it's kind of about finding that balance, isn't it?
Between honoring the tradition and blazing your own trail.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that whole do what thou wilt thing.
Ah, yes. The infamous Thelemic law.
I know we talked about this before, but I think I need a refresher. What does it actually mean to do what thou wilt in Thelema?
Well, it's not about just doing whatever you feel like.
Right. There's more to it than that.
It's about aligning your actions with your true will, like figuring out your purpose and then actually living it.
So it's about living authentically.
Exactly. Expressing who you really are and creating a life that reflects that.
Sounds like it takes a lot of self-reflection.
It does. It's a journey.
Yeah.
But Thelema gives you a map and some tools to help you along the way.
Okay, so Thelema is like a philosophy and a practice.
I'd say so. It's a way of understanding the world and a way of changing yourself.
This has been a wild ride, from cosmic events to personal stories of magic and Crowley's crazy visions.
It's been quite the deep dive, hasn't it?
It really has. So, as we wrap up, I think a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, where do I even begin if I want to learn more?
That's a great question. There are tons of resources out there, books, websites, even groups you can join.
What would you recommend for someone who's just starting out?
I'd say start with Crowley's The Book of the Law. It's a good foundation.
And what about practices? Where can someone go to learn more about that?
There are Thelemic organizations and groups that offer classes and workshops. It's about finding what works for you.
And like we've been saying, it's important to approach it all with an open mind, right?
Totally. Be willing to question things, experiment, and find your own way.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of Thelema.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring. And remember, love is the law. Love under will.